Of NASA's Crew-9 mission that is set to return back to Earth. That's right, of course, with scheduled procedures beginning on the 18th of March and concluding with the splashdown on the 19th of this month. The entire operation will be closely monitored, pending weather conditions at the designated landing sites. The return process, it begins on the 18th of March at 8:15 a.m. when NASA will start coverage of the hatch closing. The next major milestone will take place at 10:15 a.m. as coverage of the undocking process begins. The spacecraft is expected to undock from the International Space Station at about 10:35 a.m. Once undocking is complete, NASA will switch to an audio-only broadcast until further updates. And if weather conditions permit, continuous coverage will resume before the deorbit burn on the 19th of March. Now, NASA will resume return coverage at 2:15 a.m. on the 19th of March, providing live updates on the descent process of Crew-9. The deorbit burn, a critical maneuver to re-enter Earth's atmosphere, is scheduled for 2:41 a.m., though the timing at this point in time remains approximate. Following a successful deorbit burn, the spacecraft is expected to splash down at 3:27 a.m. according to Indian Standard Time. Following a successful landing, NASA will then hold a return to Earth media conference at 5 a.m. Indian time in the morning, 19th of March. And take a look at this. The human body, it was never designed for space, but astronauts, they continue to push the limits, facing extreme conditions that leave lasting effects. New research reveals troubling risks. In microgravity, bones weaken, your muscles shrink, and the fluids in the body shift, causing vision problems and even brain swelling. Astronauts returning from long missions struggle with balance, blood pressure, and even permanent bone loss. Radiation is another silent threat. Earth's atmosphere shields us, but in deep space, astronauts are exposed to high-energy radiations, increasing risks of cancer and damaging the DNA. The heart and immune system also take a massive hit.
In those areas where the bones support those large muscle groups, like in the hips and the low back and the legs, what we measure is reabsorption of the calcium in the bone in those areas. So that's one of the reasons why exercise is such a big component of any crew day on all the missions that we fly, because as soon as you enter that weightlessness environment, your body starts being responsive to that, and those the calcium loss and the strength loss and the loss in the ability to work, called aerobic capacity, those all start decreasing if you don't do anything to. We kind of view exercise as a great big pill that we have the crew take to counteract all these adaptations that I mentioned. And so that's also a very big, that'd be to me one of the big three preventative things that we have in place.
Well, there is the physiological toll, and of course, there's the psychological toll. Months of isolation, confined spaces, and disrupted sleep cycles can impact mental health, leading to stress, mood swings, and cognitive decline. And the biggest unknown: what happens if humans try to reproduce in space? Studies on animals show concerning results, but for humans, the effects remain a mystery.
Radiation has a number of effects on cells, but basically you're worried about it, depending on the kind of dose, breaking down the way the cells work and potentially introducing breaks and changes into the proteins and the DNA that's within the cell. So the good news is that we monitor this very closely, and we have the crew will wear basically a radiation dosimeter throughout each mission, and so we'll be able to understand more clearly the amount of radiation that they received. And we have some fairly defined and strict levels for the crew. We don't ever want them to get substantial amounts of radiation such that it substantially increases risks of concerning things like development of cancers and stuff like that. And we also do some other things. We have them periodically do a battery of cognitive tests to see if we can measure any kind of change in their reaction time and performance and things like that while they're out on mission.
But with missions to the moon and Mars on the horizon, scientists are racing to find the solutions. Can we keep astronauts safe on years-long journeys? And if we dream of colonizing space, will the human body ever truly adapt?
We have a plan for, we call it a reconditioning plan. And I described a little bit about how when crew go into space, their body adapts to being in space. Well, they kind of have to do the same thing, but in reverse. They have to readapt to being back on the ground. And so that involves, there'll be a landing recovery team. The medical team is part of that. And so we'll go out to the landing site and help get the crew off the vehicle and bring them back here to Houston. And then once they're back here, there's basically a 45-day period of fairly intensive